Cubs may be in the market for another elite starter, someone that has experience, maybe someone that's fresh off of a World Series championship, got that ring. Now they're looking for a payday. Could the Cubs want to sign a former Cardinal, Jack Flaherty? We're going to talk about it because, according to reports, the Cubs are in the mix. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. We ask you to do those things every day. It's because we want all the Cubs fans to know where they can come and hang out and talk Cubs baseball. Let's go. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie here on the Cubs Baseball channel, and it is great to hang out with you guys. Love talking Cubs, hot stove season. Been a fan for like 40-some years. Good times, bad times, more bad times, great times. And now we're back to the bad times again. But we want to change that. Maybe not so bad. I mean, if good is making a run at the first or the second team out of the playoff mix, right? Well, the front office is on a one-year deal. That's basically it, right? They haven't been renewed, and they are working hard. I got to give Jed Hoyer a lot of credit. There is a sense of urgency about this roster as basically he tries to figure out how to win without being able to spend a whole lot of money. Well, one of those guys that could cost the Cubs some money, but is definitely mid-range, which is what we heard, and could be in the Cubs' price range, and could also give them someone that could potentially be an ace, is Jack Flaherty. Could the Cubs sign Jack Flaherty? Well, right now, he's predicted to sign 3 years, $72 million. I don't know if that is where his agent has him right now, but that's what the predictions say. They're normally pretty accurate or pretty close to that when it's all said and done. Now, the Cubs rotation as it sits looks like this, where Jack Flaherty would make this rotation a whole lot better in my mind, right? Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, Jameson Taillon, Matt Boyd, Javier Assad, and Cody Poteet. So, I know Assad, I know Imanaga, Steele, and Taillon. Have no idea about Boyd or Poteet. They don't have, Boyd coming off an injury, looked really good last year, heading into the playoffs for the Yankees, right? And then he was what the Cubs got back in the sell-off for Cody Bellinger. But, I mean, he's pitched a handful of games, and, you definitely flip a coin on him. Right. So throw Flaherty in there. Let's talk about Flaherty and what he brings to the table. Traded by the Cardinals to Baltimore in 2023 to try to help the Orioles in the postseason. And, in his 7 starts in 9 games, he wasn't great for Baltimore, had some great performances, but 1-3 record and had a 6.75 ERA. 2023 overall. Not that impressive when you look at it. He was between the Cardinals and the Orioles 8-9 and had a 4.99 ERA, right? So he ends up in Detroit. He signed as a free agent with the Tigers in last year's offseason, made some tweaks during spring training and figured something out. And this is why you look at him and go, hey, whatever he did to get himself right and back to being one of baseball's really good starters, it worked. He was 7-5 for the Tigers, had a 2.95 ERA, and then the Tigers traded him to the Dodgers, got some great prospects back, and he ended up 6-2 for the World Series champs, pitching for his hometown team, his childhood favorite team, had a 3.58 ERA, and won a World Series with the Dodgers. And now, the Dodgers are signing everyone but him. It seems like they've got money for everyone, but him. And that's the way that it works sometimes, right? But at the end of the day, the Cubs need someone. And Flaherty, who last year in the postseason for the Dodgers, what did he have? Gave up runs against the Yankees in the World Series, a bunch. And that's probably why they're like, "Hey, we're gonna be back in the World Series, and you were beaten up in the playoffs last year, so we're gonna go ahead and pass on re-signing you," right? The Cubs really they don't have to worry about it because they haven't been in the playoffs. They just need him to do the regular season thing, and I still think that it slots him near the top of the rotation. But this is the part that makes him, I guess, interesting to me is 3 years, $72 million, right? So it's right in their range. I'm surprised that the Dodgers didn't re-sign him, to be honest with you. But then when you feel like you're going to get others, and then they went out and got Blake Snell, and who knows if they're going to get Roki Sasaki, who they're trying to get right now. The Cubs are in the battle for him too, but the Dodgers are seen kind of as the favorite there. Flaherty maybe goes back to Baltimore, right? So here's the teams that are reportedly in the mix for Flaherty. Baltimore, they got to the playoffs last year and had no one that could pitch, and then except Corbin Burns, and then he signed a mega deal with the Diamondbacks. They don't have him. The San Francisco Giants, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Tigers are back in the mix again. Like, didn't we just see this? Yeah, and that's what teams love to do. Like, you buy a guy, and then you trade him, and then you go to the playoffs, and then you don't have anybody to pitch. Which is so funny about the Tigers. I don't think they expected to be there at the deadline. Then they got to the playoffs, and it was like this bullpen thing that they were doing, but it worked until it didn't work. But so they're back in the mix for a starter, so they could get all those prospects that they got from the Dodgers and then go back and re-sign Flaherty, who fit in well there and obviously made some adjustments working with them that helped him become a great pitcher again. And then the Cubs. So are the Cubs going to sign Flaherty? He makes sense from a financial standpoint. 3 years, $72 million. Break that down however you want to do it. The Cubs have money. They said like $55 million available after the Bellinger deal. So that gets you pretty close. Does he want to come to Chicago? I'm sure when you come in as a Cardinal and you look around, you're like, man, this place is awesome. And, Cubs and Cardinals have had guys before to play on both teams. I always think of Bruce Sutter for some reason, I guess just because I'm old school, but whatever, right? Could you possibly see this happening? Do I see this happening? I don't know. Like, I don't have a good feel for this yet, other than I really think that the Cubs are going to add another starter to the rotation. And I think part of that is that when you look at the back end of this rotation, Boyd, question mark to me. Can he stay healthy? Are you going to get the guy that was so good last year for Cleveland in a short amount of time? Poteet, who's been kind of a career minor leaguer, but he looked really, really good in the games that he pitched for the Yankees. But obviously, they swapped him out. He's like I don't want to say a rookie, but like a 30-year-old minor leaguer that has, had a handful of starts last year. And then Javier Assad, who you love, but maybe a role that's better for him is coming out of the bullpen as the long man and maybe being the sixth or the seventh pitcher as a starter, right? So you can use him both ways. I like Assad. He's definitely a solid pitcher, but it just felt like last year, like you get through the lineup a couple of times, and then that third time he would get hurt. But now you got him, in my projections, he's like the fifth starter. So you go sign someone that you can put in there between Imanaga, Steele, and Tyone, and then that slots everyone else down. That gives your team a lot more depth. And that was something that Theo Epstein talked about when he was the team president of the Cubs. You got to have like 9 guys to start throughout the season. Now, baseball's changed a little bit because you use so many pitchers out of the bullpen. You go there faster. That's kind of where this game's trending. But I still think that starting pitching is the difference between the playoffs and not making the playoffs. 9 out of 10 times you got to have a solid starting pitching to get there. The other thing that I'm keeping an eye on is, could the Cubs make a trade for a starting pitcher? And I think that's a possibility because they've got so much capital right now as far as their prospects. But would the Twins really be willing to trade Pablo Lopez? Is kind of a name that you're hearing as a potential. If I'm the Cubs and I could get Pablo Lopez, I'm doing it because, look, he'd be the best pitcher you have, or maybe the second best pitcher you have, but you put him at the top of the rotation. But you're going to have to give up some players to get him. What would that deal look like? And is it even something that the Twins would do, right? So we'll find out. But anyway, those are the things that we're kind of looking at right now. Comment section, keep the comments coming. Love talking to you guys about the Cubs every day. This has been, to me, a really interesting hot stove season, and I think it's just because there's so much at stake. There's no fallback for the front office. If the team doesn't win, then you go out and you make the trade. You get Kyle Tucker. I mean, that's a mega deal, right? But are you going to be able to sign him after the season? And then you trade Cody Bellinger for cash and a 30-year-old pitcher that hasn't really pitched much in the big leagues. And then, now you're trying to go out and add to the rotation, get someone solid there with not a lot of resources. And then all of us sitting around watching the Dodgers just get everybody. Like, the Dodgers have become like the party of Major League Baseball. Like, everybody wants to be on the Dodgers. And what is interesting about that is, you remember when the Cubs got Joe Madden, Theo was there. They went out and they kind of surprised everybody when they got John Lester to sign. And then all of a sudden it was like that kind of feeling. Like, you just saw people just wanted to come play for the Cubs. And here's Ben Zobrist. All right. He knows how to win. And then, you just look through and it was like, I could go make more money somewhere else, but I want to come and play with the Cubs, Dexter Fowler. So so I'm hoping that the Cubs can try to figure out a way to do the same thing. I think they took a couple steps in that direction, but then you watch the Dodgers and it's, like some of you guys said in the comment section, it's like, hey man, it feels like the Cubs are dumpster diving while the Dodgers are out there, and it's like a Hollywood party. So anyhow, you guys tell me what you think in the comments section. Thanks for hanging out, being part of the show. Like and subscribe, share with your Cubs friends, and hit the bell so when we're dropping new shows. We will talk to you again tomorrow, and kind of get on unless something big happens if they sign Flaherty. But thanks for hanging, and go Cubs.